Okay, I'm popping on here to read Psalm 126. I'm not sure why I never truly loved this psalm. Maybe it felt a little bit like refrigerator magnet to me. But in this season, I feel like it's been really interesting to look into, and I did some research on it, so I'm just going to read part of it. It says, "When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy." I think I always thought that just seemed weird. "The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy." And then the second part of the psalm, "Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. He who goes out weeping, carrying seeds to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him." Maybe it's just because I thought it was a little dramatic. But anyways, this is a song of ascent, which meant that the people of Israel were singing it basically as they were hiking up a hill to go worship in Jerusalem. And I think it's really cool because that shows the community aspect. When you're singing a song with people, even if you've ever watched football or what we call soccer, in England, they all have these team songs that everybody knows the words to and they sing all at once. And it's this really cool idea of this community and we're all on the same team. And so I think sometimes we maybe lose a little of that because that's not necessarily how we read this psalm. A lot of times it's just us sitting with our coffee on the back porch or whatever. The other thing that's cool to see in this psalm is talking about how the Lord had restored them in the past. So the people of Israel had been rescued from captivity by God. And when it talks about their mouths are filled with laughter, tongues with song of joy, we were like those who dreamed. Basically the idea is it felt too good to be true. And then there's also this prayer in the second half that says restore our fortunes, which is more of a future tense. So they're remembering that God has restored them before, which gives them hope and a boldness to ask God to restore them again. So I think that's really cool to look at. And then this whole idea of sowing and reaping, something that I think everyone can understand because we've all seen things planted and then watch them grow later, especially for these people. They were farmers, so they really got it. I think for us in Montana, we also really get it, but it's just something that's timeless that all people can understand. And so there's this idea that reaping and sowing is proportionate. So the more tears or the harder the thing you're going through, the more joy and celebration that's on the other side of it. And I think that can be encouraging when you're going through stuff. I'm also reading Brene Brown, which has been really cool, and this is one of the quotes. She says, "We cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotions. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness." And that was really interesting for me too, because I think it's more normal or accepted to numb the bad emotions, but realizing that then it's harder to actually celebrate or feel the good ones has been something that I've really been thinking about. And then this verse, when it talks about the Negev, we don't live in that geography, so sometimes we kind of lose that. But basically it just means water in the desert. And what a great visual of hope. When you're in the middle of the desert and there's no water, there's no food, it's hot, it's uncomfortable, basically death. And then all of a sudden there's water, how that changes things around. And water brings life and growth and refreshing and all the things. Usually it tends to be somewhere where people gather around, so you're not by yourself anymore. And I just think this whole psalm is this great picture of a journey. So not only were the people of Israel singing it while they were on a journey, but it's actually a word picture of a journey of sowing and death, but then also resurrection and bearing fruit. Like it says in John, unless the grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, then it doesn't actually multiply or bear fruit. And again, the greater the sorrow, the greater the joy. So our deliverance might not be like a physical captivity where we're occupied by the Romans or captivity in Babylon, but it could be maybe just our own doubts about ourselves, about our faith, our own choices, or depression, or whatever it might be. But just knowing that the present distress isn't going to last forever, and not only that, but it's actually a means to an end, so there's purpose in it. Pain can be good. It can cause us to change when we otherwise wouldn't have. And also, I think it can refine us. You know, Jesus was, it says, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief and suffering. And if you think about that, it's kind of wild because he did everything right. Never once made a mistake, never once sinned, never once made a bad choice. And yet he still suffered and was sad a lot. So I think if you're wondering, like, why is this happening to me? Why do bad things happen to good people? Like, nobody understands that more than Jesus. I mean, his own body was kind of, well, not kind of, it was buried, right? Like a grain of wheat. It died. It went into the grave. But then the resurrection, right? So without that death, the resurrection wouldn't really have been that impressive. So I think it's just a good idea to maybe dive into some of these things. Think about how they apply to your own life, but also in light of what they would have meant to the people that were reading them. And if you're in a season of sowing and tears, or maybe even just the desert, maybe it's just blah, maybe it's not like super sad and depressing or super happy, it's just kind of in the middle, to just be faithful in what you know is the right thing, and to know that not all pain and suffering is bad. It's only bad if we choose to dwell on it and not let it be used, and not let it make us more like Jesus, or able to maybe identify with him more, and to know that not all things that are bad or that suck that happen to you are because you're not doing things right. In fact, it could be even more so because you are, and understanding it's part of a greater purpose, and also being okay that you might not know what that is and probably won't. I think we love to know why. I love to know why. I love to research. I love to have a reason. But I'm finding sometimes the why did this happen question isn't going to be answered and isn't always the most helpful. So instead, what can I learn from this? And maybe who can I help through this? So anyways, I hope that brings you a little encouragement today. I'm just going to read the second half again. Psalm 126, restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him. So keep sowing so that you can reap, and I'm going to go pick up my groceries now.